What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode. As you see, you just said, sure, welcome back to Lemons and Lemonade. Today I've got a very, very special guest. I'm so excited to be speaking to the one and only Kevin Ribbans. Man, this guy's story is crazy. I don't know where to start. But just a quick, introduction to how I met Kevin is I'm at Bridges right now, currently enrolled here on a 6-month course, and he's the in-house sound engineer. You run everything with the sound when it comes to the school.
Yeah,
so
I'm
that's
acting head of music for the place. Yeah.
I don't know why he's acting. He's the head of music at the school, and it's been an awesome journey that we've shared throughout. Just to introduce you to the platform is that what we're trying to create at Lemons to Lemonade is, you know the saying, from a lemon to lemonade, and you happen to be a lemonade. You're the second lemonade in the platform, so that's good. That's cool. So, I just realized that as artists sometimes, the help we need is literally a question away or a phone call away. But sometimes, especially in our culture, is that there's this thing, it's not said, but it's a weird thing where you must never ask an adult, or the disconnect with guys who are ahead of us, and it's like a respect thing. But when you come to creativity and entrepreneurship, that kills that, because now you miss out on opportunities and you miss out on information that you really actually need. And a crazy story about that was, and even how the channel started was, Dizzy Blackies are across the street.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to meet him, but it's again that fear, you don't know how, it's like, And then the one guy was like, just go to his house. And I literally went to his house, and he was so happy I did. He's like, why do a lot of you guys don't come? And that was the trip, So I was like, since I have the guys to go to people like you and other people, why not bring you guys together in a platform that will stay forever? What you say today, someone out there might need it and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, this problem often stems off the back of the education system we come out of. Because you kind of put through this thing of you only allow this information if you pass this test. And people often don't learn in that way. Sometimes, for example, my mother was a piano teacher, and she wanted to teach me when I was 5. And when I was 5, I was like, I don't want to do this. I wanted to go play in the garden and stuff. Until she was like, well, how about this? And she played me, I think it was Beethoven's or something, but it's quite popularly used.
Sure, that's crazy.
And little 5-year-old me was like, wow, I want to do that. And my mother looked at me and was like, okay.
Don't know why I'm pursuing that.
And weirdly enough, I didn't know a single scale, I didn't know notes, I didn't know any of that, but boy, could I play that song.
That's why.
That showed me that it's not about an order of information, it's about which information is right for you then.
Sure.
But off the back of that, what that tends to do is make you go, okay, well, I need to pass a test or prove some form of thing to be able to approach said person and to say, I'm worthy of your time now. And weirdly enough, on the reverse, exactly like Dizzy was saying, it's like, I'm just so glad that you came.
Yeah.
They are just humans. That's too,
so
and they are excited by ideas. As simple as that. So if you come with a good idea, they're going to run with it.
And it's so crazy you said that, because I think only now I can actually put into words. It's that feeling inadequate. I'm not ready. Or I'm not at your standard. And I to be honest, if I didn't come to Bridges, and let's say I knew you outside, I wouldn't have come to you.
Well,
you know what I mean?
No, you're quite right.
It's a trip.
There's a lot of it. We probably consider it a form of imposter syndrome. And often it happens just after a few inflection points in your life. So suddenly you're DJing, and now you've got gigs, and you're like, it's quite a big deal, and you're like, oh shit, am I good enough? Should I apply for that gig or not? And it's like, at the end of the day, it comes down to one simple statistic fact is if you don't go and ask, it's considered a no.
Yep.
If you go and ask and they say no, it's exactly the same as not
asking.
So rather ask and get the no. Because you might get a yes, because not asking gives you no chance at a yes.
Wow.
So the reality is just ask.
Definitely.
And I think the other thing with that is that if you get a no or you get a bad response, you know then and there that that's not a good person to work with. You don't want to have to go down the line and find yourself working with these people only to find out, man, they're not my people. So,
sure, yeah. That's trippy. And also, like, even now you're mentioning your mom, and that's something that stood out for me even day one. I remember we were speaking and you'd always reference your mom. Like, oh, my mom. Yeah, how was that relationship? Like, that's crazy.
So I was... Yeah, I mean, I can, for all intents and purposes, I have to say I was very blessed with a really loving pair of parents. Both were quite musical.
Sure.
My mom was incredibly musical. She was a concert pianist. She was the SA champ accordionist.
That is wild.
In my opinion, she invented wobble sounds, like dubstep sounds, because she used to play that thing and shake it, and it would go whoa, 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 whoa. And so... it was always great. We grew up in a musical family.
Sure.
My mom used to, funny enough, she played the piano that we actually have here was hers, and it was used to do all the small schools around Plet. So she was the player for that. Interesting enough, she always turned around to me and went, I could never read music. You can't put music down in front of me and I'll go, ooh, like, here we go, like it's easy. And that was her. But when it came to writing music, she looked at me and she's like, I could never ever create a song by myself. I'm an instrumentalist. I play other people's music. So that was where the big difference was between me and my mom. However, as you get older, you start to realize just how much of that information you use, and so you hear me referencing my mom because she actually had a lot of bloody good advice.
I know. Each time you'd be like, my mom said, and I'm like, damn, like, your mom says a lot of dope quotes.
Yeah, no, she wasn't a woman of too many words, which is strange for my family because we all talk a lot. But when she did speak up, it was always worth saying, and I think that's also something to take out of this world is, there was a story of there's a sign above the BBC radio things, and it says, if you've got nothing good to say, shut the fuck up.
Sheesh.
And that's kind of my mom's ethos. Is like she wouldn't talk for the sake of talking. She would only talk if there was an important message to get across, or if someone needed to be consoled, or if there was meaning to what came out. And I take that as well on board. Is if you're going to die, if you ask the question, take it seriously.
Yeah.
People's lives in the greater scheme of things, but just they're relying on you, so you must take what their needs are seriously.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what's crazy what you're saying now? Also, like, it's like this responsibility thing that I'm now realizing. Like, everything I'm doing now was just like a moment of inspiration, you know? And then now, like, when you realize, like, that you're influencing kids, it's going back to what you're saying now. It's like, yeah, that's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, yo, I didn't sign up for that class.
Yes.
So that is crazy.
But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. One thing I've noticed in South African dance culture is when we went on tour overseas, we were playing at different hours. We weren't suddenly always booked for midnight to 4 a.m. We played from 6 till 7, and it was at a public park, and there were families there, and they were all enjoying electronic music. And the one thing about South African culture is the electronic music scene, it's kind of difficult to include the family in it. It's very much set up for late night parties or festivals and stuff. So, in the end, doing something like that, if it brings us back to making it slightly more accessible for everyone, because, a lot of my friends are now, like, we all in our 40s and with families and stuff, and they used to party hard, these guys. They love going to events, they love watching the DJs, and now it's suddenly just had to cut because they're not finding many things that now they can bring kids to. They can, but it's no longer dance music. So this is all in the aim to hopefully kind of open up dance music and for it not to be in the realm of just the nightclub or just the festival. So
I 100% agree with what you're saying. And so you went on to study and go through school and stuff like that. And as I was always complaining, right? Like we would say like, oh, my mom doesn't understand music, so I have to go to school just to make her happy. So you're in a family where there's music, but you still went on to get your honors and to go and graduate. What was that? Like, what inspired that? Did you say that?
Well, I think the first thing to note is that I didn't study music. I studied accountancy and international marketing management, and that was kind of from my dad's side. So he pushed me for that side, and I looking back, I realized it was nothing to do with the fact that he didn't want me to do music. It was because he was an accountant. And if I chose accountancy, then he could help me because it was a world he knew.
100%.
But suddenly he saw me going into what at the time was very new. It was, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was kind of the birth of the electronic music scene in South Africa. So we kind of, my dad was like, I don't know what the fuck you doing. I can't help you with any of this stuff. So, you know, I'm not too, but eventually I did go back and study international marketing management. And that being said, all of that has really helped me on the music side of things, because there's nothing better than in a world where people see musicians as people who are, their focus is on music.
Yeah.
And that's a very easy person to corrupt or cheat or do whatever with their finances or their admin. So it allowed me to be in a position where often I caught people trying to catch me on, you know, contracts or money or any of that, and so it allowed me to actually be able to stop that side of things and actually, you know, be in control of my own finances.
100%. So in the happening of it, is it like a like I want to do this, or is it more of like a I don't know, like I'm trying to understand, like was it like a
accountancy or
just
music?
going to school? No, school generally.
I liked school in the sense that you know, I liked the activities, I liked the friends. High school was a bit, I didn't buy into a toxic male ethos, and I was at a boarding school that was rugby centric. So it, you know, so I kind
I'm so sorry, Ken. You remind me of a friend of mine. His name is Jared. He's actually in my documentary.
Yeah.
Like you just see him there. You remind me of him, man. Like he's like the small guy, and he's got a big mouth, man. He's gonna be. He won every fight, and he didn't get physical, but it was like it was a toxic school.
Yeah, that's,
you know, and
that's exactly it. Is you know, I'm not a big fighter.
Yeah.
I try and avoid it, but you know, often I have to remind my mouth to stop.
Yeah, he would shred the biggest guy, and then he would just keep going. But yeah, that's crazy.
Strangely enough, I've kept a lot of really large guy friends, and a lot of it has been with them going, I'm not sure how anyone your size could actually say things like that to me, so I've been enamored more than but yeah, so in you know, I didn't mind. I come from a kind of an overachiever family, so my sister was also an overachiever, so we were good. I was a nerd at school.
Oh, I see.
And did well. One of the first time I actually got to the point where I realized that I didn't like what I was studying was third year varsity. So I was 3 years into accounting. And I eventually said to my parents, I don't want to do this. And my dad was like, initially he was like, well, you're just saying that because you're not working hard enough. And my argument was, I'm not working hard enough because I hate this.
Yeah,
and it made me realize that you really need to love what you do. Especially, you know, there's one thing for you to go, okay, I kind of love this. But the person next to you who loves it more, that the amount of work they're going to put in is just, you can't compete with it unless you absolutely love it. So that being said, I drove home. I actually stopped at UCT myself. I went in and did all the paperwork. Drove back to Plet, knocked on the door on a Thursday night at 10 and said, I stopped UCT. And my dad was like, okay, fine, well, you're on your own. So off you go back to Cape Town. So then I spent 1.5 years working on building sites, running cables for rich people's...
That's why you're so good at cables.
So, yeah, so it was really cool. It was tough. I mean, the hours were 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day, 6 days a week. You know, rough environment to work in. Great people though, that's weirdly enough.
Sure.
If you want nice people, go to building sites, not accountancy firms.
Oh,
so I did that for about 1.5 years, and then picked up marketing management, to which my dad was like, oh, okay, you know, I'm glad you're studying
Something's
again.
happening.
I was back into the family and pleased.
In that year of the building, where's the music, or what's happening with the music?
So the music. So weirdly enough, the music was happening. I think I was in, well, I'm going to have to say grades now, I'm that old. Grade 10, yeah, so grade 10. I met a guy called Jonathan, and he was in my science class.
Sure.
And the way we met is it was day one of the new class. He came up to me and said, do you want to make touch crystals?
Touch crystals.
Sweet, let's make touch crystals. And I was the only guy who said yes. So then off we go to the science teacher, Mr. Roos, who was shaming. He was getting on in his years. Probably should have listened a bit more to what we were asking to do. But we went to make touch crystals. And I think he was just so excited that two boys were interested in science. He said, go for it. So off we made the touch crystals, and for those of you that don't know what touch crystals are, they are crystals that when they dry and you touch them, they explode. So
what is the point of making them? That's crazy.
Because it was a scientific reaction.
Oh.
So to a science nerd teacher,
you're just like,
the reaction. Anyway, so we made them. We went away for lunch, came back to biology class, which was underneath the science class. To which we find our biology teacher going, you're not going to believe what happened. I was sitting in class marking and suddenly this huge explosion and glass everywhere. So obviously we ran upstairs and these touch crystals had obviously dried out too much on the piece of paper on the shelf and blown up in one go and ended up blowing out the entire window of the first story.
No, that's crazy.
Thankfully no one was in the class. But that's how Mix and Blend technically started as a friendship. And then me and John.
That's John.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy.
So then John, at the time, John's parents moved back to England for work, and he was bouncing between St Andrews and Grahamstown with me, and going back there. And the whole time we had got into dance music, and like it was like Friday night at midnight they checked through to the Ministry of Sound Friday night.
Sure.
DJ set. It was like the era of rave, so like Reach for the Lasers, Paul van Dyk, all those guys.
It's pretty
like,
sick though.
Yeah, no, I mean they're still around, I see. So we used to kind of record that, stay up late, and that was our access to dance music, because Grahamstown, there wasn't much else. And then John was kind of bringing stuff from England, and then we came to UCT, and John went back and worked at a pool, like a public pool place.
Okay.
Funny story about that. Actually, his manager, the guy he worked with, went on to use that manager as the example. That's what the office is created around.
No way.
So apparently this guy was a piece of work. John worked there for 6 months, saved up money, bought 2 turntables and a mixer, and then came back here to Cape Town. And the whole time we were studying, because John has gone on to get his honours in YT systems, but we were just DJing on the side. So we started at UCT Radio.
Sure.
We went and got us a show. And then from that, it kind of branched out. And then we met a woman by the name of Heather Nell, or Honey Bee. And she was...
Just to cut you off, I don't know, with the radio station at UCT, you guys like kind of went to go knock old school, or did you like know someone there? How did
No, we walked through the door and said, what do we do to get a show?
Oh, that's so dope. No, I like, cause that's what I'm trying to also champion. Like again, it goes back to the thing of like just let's go. You know?
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean that's how we got our first gigs. We walked into the club and said, how do we get a gig here?
Yeah, so, like literally, right?
And
it's
I think maybe if anything, if you're worried, arrive at a venue and don't go, I want to DJ. Just say, what's it take? How do you go about getting your gigs? Because you may find that the guy books it himself and he's like, cool, what are you doing Thursday? Send me it can be that simple. Or they can say, oh, okay, we have this promoter on this Friday night, this promoter on Saturday night, and then you can ask for their contact details and then hit them up. Granted, my one piece of advice is, if you are to hit someone up cold, is don't just start with a hi, how are you? Yeah. I'm going to need all that information. It's got to be, hi, my name is Vezi, I'm a DJ, I got your number from, very important, got your number from, I'm very interested in doing some events, how do we go forward?
Sure.
And then, so it's time and time I get messages where it's just like, hey dude, how are you? and like, many a times it's turned out to be someone I know and I do help them, but we could have got going a lot quicker because I'm not going to reply to a hey, how are you? Cold
what's
message.
happening here?
Yeah. So anyway, so back to the music. So we were always doing it as a hobby on the side. And then we met Heather Nell. She was working for African Dope Records. And then we started...
Sorry, Kim, I'm going to break you one more time. So now I just like to know like the intricacies of the stories. And then, so now you guys are like, doing it as a hobby, right? And you guys decided to go to like UCT and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure right now you kind of have an idea of what you want to do. what is that idea, Nix?
No, I was at GCT.
Wait, yeah, I'll just wake up and let's go to the radio station.
No. So we knew we wanted a DJ.
Oh,
like
okay,
we had
cool.
So we'd bought, John had saved up and bought a pair of turntables, and so we had a pair of turntables in his res room.
Oh, okay, cool.
And we were practicing furiously and doing our thing, and then we needed somewhere to play.
Oh, okay, that's where like the...
And so we did approach a few clubs, but we, at that time, it was Funky House Mad. So it was like Fresh House Flavor, those albums, like all that kind of music. Every club was playing that across the board. And me and John pitched up with like breakbeat and drum and bass and jungle and stuff. And so it wasn't really a place for us to DJ. We just, I think we managed to get a no from every club in Cape Town. So then we were like, okay, well, let's try UCT Radio. And then what time was our show? Oh yes, we got 2 to 4 a.m. on a Sunday night.
Drum and bass, 2 to 4 a.m.
Well, yeah, it was drum and bass and like breakbeat and hip hop and a bit more left field.
That's
stuff,
tough.
Yeah. Well, that's
graveyard
the
shift.
Graveyard shift. Yeah. So we did that, and then we met a guy from England called Ben, Smokey B, and he'd been living in Manchester, originally Welsh chap. And he had come out to study, but he was quite interconnected into the UK scene and DJing and stuff, and had a really good selection of music. And me and John were kind of more the full dance, so like rave and like EDM, techno, breakbeat, drum and bass, all of that kind of stuff. And he was more funk, soul, reggae, all of that. And then so he said, let's just do a show together. We'll call it the Mix and Blend Radio Show. And then we'll throw all our stuff together. So it can be the full range of genres. And that's where the show was born. And then from that, we started playing out. And I would say our first official gig as Mix and Blend, like a night that you came to, would be Friday nights at Waiting Room. Not Waiting Room, Marvel Bar, across the way.
Sure, sick.
And that was a case of John walking in going, what do we have to do to play Friday nights or a night? And the guy was like, 10% of the bar, bottle of Jägermeister for the 5 of you. And we had got some friends up. So we rolled as like a group of friends. It was me and John, and then Heather, Honey B, Farrell Adams, who was a very good singer at the time. He was from a rock band called Nine. Back in the day, and he was also a very good funk DJ. Sure. And then we had a guy called Leighton, aka the Blunted Stuntman. He goes way back.
That sounds so dope.
Yeah. So he goes back as far as like 206 days back in Joburg. That's like original generation.
Surely, Kev, you have a stage name? You don't?
I've had a few. My first one.
Yeah, that's exciting. I got
Berlin 74.
Why?
In the days back then, often what would happen would be John would be in the car, John and Ben would be having a huge chat, and Kevin would be driving and slightly distracted, maybe due to the colour of the cigarette he was smoking. Yeah. And I always used to go, huh? And then Ben used to go, don't worry, it's Berlin 74, don't worry. And that's how it stuck. So that was kind of an alias, but then mostly it became Mix and Blend as the full alias. The next time I was to create an alias was when we created Laser Shark, which was the heavy drum and bass offshoot of Mix and Blend. And then only recently in the last few years have I been releasing it under my own name, Kevin Ribbans.
Yeah, so I was wondering, I'm like, the scene is so crazy, you cannot be Kevin Ribbans. Yeah, like, come on, you cannot just be like, hey, it's Kevin Ribbans.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
But that's, like, my personal stuff is, you know, I write songs for myself often, you know, that I don't release. The way I write music is if I'm feeling something, I may write it and delete it, you know, just to have the fun of the creation. So I never needed to have my personal stuff as kind of an alias that had to get pushed.
To release it.
So Kevin Ribbans was fine. And it also saved me like having to kind of get out and build a whole new brand. Out from underneath Mix and Blend. Which after 15 years was going to be quite hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can truly imagine.
Yeah, so, and then after, how did it happen? It usually happens in a bunch of crazy stories, which are now blurred. But, Yeah, so we were kind of finishing up at UCCT and finishing all those things. I had gone to work on building sites and stuff. And John came to me and he said, let's write an album. But we're going to collab with every song. So I was like, cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
So off we went and we cold called. We just, Fletcher, hey Fletcher, you want to write a beat? Cool. They're like, hey 340 Mob, you want to write a beat? Yeah, cool. And everyone just was like, sweet, let's do it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we ended up releasing an 11-track album, and with all, it was in the name of mix and blend. So there was funk, there was reggae, there was drum and bass, there was soul, there was hip hop, there was electronica, there was trip hop. It was the full mashup.
Sure.
And off that, that ended up being, I think, one of the first electronica albums to be nominated in the SAMAs, but like left field electronica. So I mean,
is there anything you do that's like straight field?
No.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's coming. So I then off the back of that album, there was a guy by the name of Rob Brinkworth who ran Resonate Studios, and he had produced a lot of big artists throughout the years, and also was kind of one of the premier ad studios. And he hit me and John up and said, I love what you do you want to come write for me? And that was kind of the beginning of my introduction into doing the ads and films and all of that.
That's pretty dope.
And that's where, as to say, then suddenly I had to not be left.
Yeah, that's
really
criteria to follow and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was, I felt like I'd moved into like a Formula One of writing, because it was like, write this versus this, and overnight I need 5 options by 7 a.m. So it was a real, like, it was really cutthroat. It was kind of hard in the sense that, in essence, a lot of like the more poppy stuff, it requires a lot more music theory. You know, we're not just kicking a bass line anymore. So that took a little while for me to kind of get my strengths up. But now I see it as telling a story. So I love doing sound design for stuff because it tells the story, and I love doing music now, especially like big orchestral pieces. Weirdly enough.
Sure.
So I've become my mother in a way.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, it always comes full circle, right?
Yeah, and that's actually, it's come back into my music. So a lot of the Laser Shark stuff has got super hard drops, but it's got big orchestral intros.
That's awesome.
And that's me trying to tell a story with the music in some weird way.
That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. And then also, like, when you guys are starting writing the music. Okay, I'll comment on that later. Because I wanted to comment also on the thing where you're saying like you're calling these guys to come and collaborate, and everyone's like yes. And I've noticed this on a lot of guys' stories, right, who've made it big, is that there's always this energy in the beginning that every creative kind of has, and we all work together. And I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if I'm kind of thinking ahead of the curve, but I'm also seeing to myself is that now everyone is keen to collaborate, everyone's keen to work, and it's always until we get our own gigs. And then it becomes tough to do that, and
so I think, I mean, there's 2 sides to it. I think the first part is that once everyone starts getting gigs and stuff, you're gonna get busy, and then the time runs out to start collabing like that. There's kind of things where I've been in a club with a fellow DJ, and one of the fans of both of us came up and they were like, why don't you guys do any gigs together? Why don't you play, like, blah, 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 moaning at us. And we were like, but we've been on tour in 2 different countries.
It's like, what do you want?
So it does become a thing once you get now is the time to collab, because now you've got the time.
I agree. I'm like, dude, we have no mortgages and stuff to worry about. It's like only thing you have now is your creativity and how you use it.
And as you get swept up into kind of record labels and stuff, you are going to have more and more people around you that help make those decisions for you. So a collaboration is now not going to just be on a whim anymore. It's going to be like, okay, does the manager think it's a good idea? Does this person, do they fit? Is the song good? You may have writers involved. It may get quite busy. If I'm not mistaken, if you take a Beyonce track, couple of them have got about 25 people on the line, and that's all someone had to say. So that you almost have to kind of get used to being creative in a controlled space, which can be hard. But you're gonna miss those days of being able to chill at a dude's house, smoke a few joints, and everyone drops down live. Like those do get few and far between. So use them while you got them.
Yeah, I want because I'm experiencing that now. I mean, being here at the school, and it's like, yo, I wish I could stay with these guys forever and just be crazy. And you think of an idea, you just do it, you know. But yeah, I 100% get that. And so with you guys, in that point, how are you like making ends meet? Like, are you still working, like going back and forth?
I was working wherever I could. I mean, I flew back from the Sama Awards from a double nomination and went straight to my waitering job.
That's the other thing that's crazy about music.
Yeah, so that's the reality. So music as itself, it's quite a difficult one to really monetize, like without another layer to it, like a merchandising or sync licensing to, you know, so that so as a pure pop artist, you've got more chance becoming a tennis star than a pop artist at the moment. It's a super cutthroat industry, and also I think people mismatch the fact or what is behind hype and number one, and whether it's actually should all be associated to being the best song, and not necessarily. You know, people, and so if you are a jazz aficionado and you want to do all that kind of thing, you're probably not going to find any of that love in the world of pop. You know, and you're probably looking at it going, why the hell is this number one and not that one? Because it's not necessarily about just the music. It's about a product and whether we can sell that product as well.
So true.
Does the song come with a good-looking singer? Does it come with a great band? Does it come with good fashion? All of that. So, you know, the one thing I had to learn was that, you know, the underground scene, you can be a big fish in it and you can be a nobody in the pop scene, but vice versa as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And just because your music doesn't make it to number one doesn't mean that it's not good music.
Yeah, it shouldn't live somewhere. That's so true. That's so true. And even just to throw a question at you, as for me as an artist, that I know, like I have the capabilities to make different types of music, but I'm more based on like speaking on what I feel right now. And something I always tell people is that I'm not trying to chase the radio. I'm trying to grow my own fan base. So I always know there's people that can always listen to me. Whether this body of work becomes popular or not, this is kind of what I want to do. And sometimes it's so hard to translate that to today's culture. Because today's culture is, oh man, why aren't you doing what's popular, you know? And they don't get like maybe, you know, I know where like my lane, you know, I'm not that type of artist. I'm like more of a storyteller. And
my answer to that question, why aren't you doing what's popular, is like, because I want to keep doing this for longer than like 3 months, because that's not going to be popular in 3 months, something else is. So, you know, it's like John always said to me, he was like, I want long-term fans. I want fans that find us and respect the work and go with us, and we always give to them that we're not chasing just what's popular, we're being authentic. And after a lifetime, we will only be left with the authentic fans. And that has happened.
Sure.
So, and now today we can safely say that we don't have 1 million fans. We've maybe got about 100,000 or something somewhere across the platform. But they are genuine. Like when we post a thing, they all comment, they come back and they're like, thank you for posting, thank you for another track. You know, so we get, we know that they're actually there because they like mix and blend of the music. It wasn't just because their friends said, oh, you got to like it. At the time.
Sure.
You know, so, but you pick your battle. That's not to say that going for fast and hard fans and shooting to the stars for a few months is not a good
shout.
Yeah, why not, you know?
If you can, why not?
Yeah, so, but I think the important thing is to realize that as a music career, especially if you're going to kind of want to be on top stages and stuff, in the pop world, it is kind of like a world tour circuit for any sports. Like, you're not going to be on the world tour tennis top 100 forever. You know, and what a lot of people do is they eventually kind of go, okay, cool, well, I'm getting old, I'm going to be heading out of this competitive ring, but I'd like to do something still involved with tennis. So they start like a tennis brand or a clothing brand or whatever it may be, something in the realm. And it's important for musicians to maybe keep that in mind too, is that even if you are going, every song you make is going to be famous and wonderful, do you really want to be 55 with
That's
3 kids having to do gigs every night of the week. So there is an argument to slowly backing out of that kind of gig circuit thing.
100%.
Yeah, but then it's also important to know that is inevitably coming, and you need to make plans for it. So you need to have something else. Yeah, luckily I had the ad work, and now I've got this, and it's still music. So I feel like I'm still doing music.
Doing it. And that was my transition question was to ask then, when did like even becoming a teacher, you know what I mean? Like now you going from, jamming to like now I have to like create timetables and how did that happen? And,
so I had no, like, I suppose often, I think what I can say is that if I'm going to make one bet, it's that I'll never bet against what's going to happen in 5 years, because it always, a lot of the things I do come down to kind of me saying yes to a sentence that just happened. And this was the case. It was a guy by the name of Fletcher, or AKA he was part of a group called Crushed and Sorted. Sure. They became kind of underground, globally famous for doing a drum bass remix of the Bare Necessities or the Jungle Book song. And they ran the label African Dopes for a while, and we were released on African Dopes, so we were one of their artists. And then they retired. Roach was kind of doing some other stuff, and one day Fletcher pitched up and said, I'm going to become a monk in Sri Lanka. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. Yeah. And he's like, I've suggested you for my night course at SAE. And I'm like, but I know Ableton. And he's like, no, to teach it, you idiot. And I was like, are you mad? Look at me. I'm a DJ. Like, I'm up late. I'm out partying, like all the nonsense. And he was like, no, I think you'll really enjoy it. So initially I just took it was Tuesday and Thursday evenings at SAE for 2 hours. And the money was quite nice, and I could do with that cash.
Sure.
So I was like, let me do it. Let me see what this is about, and if my thing at the beginning was that if we come away from this and either the feedback's that no, I'm not a good teacher, or I don't feel like it, then I must stop, because then I'm going to claim something and ruin people's lives going forward. But I fell in love with it. Like the first couple students to come up to me and go, oh, you showed me this, it's so clever, like thank you, like that's what I needed to know. And something in me went, that's really cool. Like it was like feeling like a crowd going, again.
Oh, it makes so much sense, yeah.
So, because I was aware that I was going to have to kind of deal with this, kicking that itch to DJ. Because, after 15 years in front of big crowds, that's quite a lot of ego stroking.
That's all like, yo.
Gone. So it's been a nice transferal to be able to kind of still get that kick, but actually out of doing something good. And yeah, there was I think at the time someone left SAE, permanent staff, and so it was just kind of an easy fit for me to fill. Sure. And I said, like, because at the time I was having an internal battle with the ad world, because it's incredibly strenuous. You got to deal with clients who are changing stuff. There's scope creep. It's all this. It's a nonsense. So I was trying to kind of step back from ad clients so I could do some other stuff. So I took this as the opportunity. Then obviously COVID. Then I went full time as the electronic music production lecturer. And then COVID hit, and obviously all shit hits the fan. And through that, eventually I stopped working at SAE, and then it was starting to open up again, and work was starting to open up again, and I was literally, it was 10 minutes away from calling my old Resonate studios to say, I'm going to come write ads again. Yeah. And I got a call from Valentino, who it so happened that he and Trenton were one of that helped set this up. And I knew Trenton from SAE, but I also knew him because he had approached me to help finish off their album, the Trenton the Free Radical album. So I had ended up kind of getting quite friendly with him with that, and he had then, off the back of that had made him suggest me to Trenton. To Valentino. And I got a call from Valentino going, Trenton said you must come, and I was like, yes, I'm there. Anything but not ads. Yeah. And then I arrived here, and Yeah, like I come off the back of SAE, you know, the relationships were a bit strained from the way it all went down and the leaving, but I don't blame anyone. I mean, it was an unprecedented pandemic. I mean, everyone was a bit crazy. But the second I got here and I met everyone and I met all the staff and everything, then I was like, okay, I'm here to stay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah,
and I think what I'd like to know also, Kev, is like, how long have you been at the school now?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, literally as we opened up from COVID.
Oh, 6. Yeah. So that's like 2, 4, 6 different like classes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And how has your experience been, just like in general, like just with the artists that walk into the doors?
Here are by far the most talented vocalists. They're like, in terms of, let me just try and then get into the thing and bang. The talent is super high here. So, and it also reminds me of a lot of kind of when we were young, and there wasn't much going on, so we had to kind of hustle, and we had our group of friends, and it was just inspiring. It was kind of, it was motivating, gave you energy. So I like that about this as well, is that it's young and it's new. And also what I really liked about this, which was a bit difficult for me with SAE, was it was tough to marry electronic music production into kind of a standardized course that then government could go, that's fine.
That's fine to teach.
So that's kind of, we had a lot of teething pains with that at SAE, and in the end it resulted in a course that I didn't really look at and go, that's not electronic music production for me. That's the how-to, but it's not the ethos of it.
It's not,
and that's what's been great about this place, is that we can do that. It's like we've had this ability to, if something doesn't work, next term we flip it around.
I won't lie, that's awesome.
And it allowed me to do, like, one of the big things that I did was I realized that I was wasting time. Half of why people weren't getting a concept was not the concept, it was the terminology. So I had to teach them the words before I had to teach them what the words do. And I got around that by over December flipping the whole course so that DJ section is the first month. And the real reason for that DJ section is so to teach you the terminology, like channel panning up, like all of that.
That's true.
So that when I open up Ableton or FL Studio, I don't have to sit there with you guys going, what's a channel, what's left,
that's the
what's
channel now.
And
that's true. It makes a whole difference.
So being able to react to the new ways people learn, that's what makes this place pretty cool.
No, I won't lie. And also, I mean, I doubt that obviously you track everyone, like, hey, how you doing now after school?
No, they track me.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that I would like to ask, because like it's like a deep thing for me, right? Being an alumni, I like to study patterns and stuff. And what I realized also was like Bridges is like 10 years now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, like who are like because every time there's a celebration of something, you kind of provide something, right? Like 10 years, I've achieved this, you know. So like when we look at the school, is that there's notable people, right, who've done great things. But when I look at statistically, like if you look at it, it's like, how many classes? 10 years, like that's like almost.
Not 10 years. Mine is quite a few for COVID.
Oh yeah, no. I'm just saying the school in general. I mean,
it's in this format. It's only run once in this format before me.
Oh,
two
sections,
I think, with Steve, who now works at Cape Audio College. But yeah, I didn't click, you know, you're doing something, it's cool, and then you look back and you're like, holy shit, that's a lot of students. And it became quite apparent to me was, obviously I don't go out into events in town that much, now that I'm living in the burbs and I've got 2 Labradors and a wife. Yeah, so,
the burbs,
hashtag burb life. But the few times I have gone out, I got shanghaied by tons of students, which was great, but I was very surprised. And then it made me realize that like going out now is not a place where I go and do shots.
It's still work.
It's still like I still got to kind of, but it does feel good to go out and have your students there, to see one's DJing, to see one's working, you know, to see that like it's all actually happening and it's churning over and people are getting into the economy, the gig economy.
Sure, 100%.
So, as much as I do panic a bit when I see the hey Gav, and I'm like, oh God. There was a story. I went to an event 3 weeks ago, and a guy came up to me and he's like, "You work at Bridges for Music, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Oh thank God, I've come to the last 3 events in hopes of finding you to give you this business card." And I was like, "Wow, dude, you could have just emailed." But so there is a bit of a strange part of me now that like I need to go and find like a weird like private only festival to go and do my dirty.
I see, like, oh damn, probably. Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah, but that being said, you know, like it's one thing, you know, like when it comes to narcotics and all of that kind of stuff, it is an obvious thing that happens, and you know, for the way I look at it is that it's not about saying, oh no, you mustn't do that. It's about actually informing people and saying, if you're going to do that, this is going to happen, and make sure you're prepared for that and this and that. This, you may think you're a good DJ, you're never a good DJ on that drug. You know, like those kind of things, and to understand that, like, just like you would approach it when you're at work, you're gonna go, no, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
It's about getting the mindset of going, I'm in this nightclub, but I'm not here to party. I'm here to do a job.
Yeah. And I love that when you said it in class too, the way you educated it was not to say don't, but just say like, just know that there's consequences to that. And there's people who might not entertain that behavior. So when they know you do that, it's an automatic no, even though you might be doing your work at 100%.
Oh yeah, and they're not going to come to you. They're just not going to call you.
100%.
You know, so there's the stigma behind it. It can be like, the reality is most people do it. No one talks about it and don't get caught because then you are the martyr.
Yeah, then it's like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, that. Watch out for him. You know, it's so it's But one thing I worry about is that if we don't educate anyone and we just say no, that's when people end up overdosing in bathrooms or being left on the side of the road because they're too drunk and they can't, because they haven't made plans. They haven't got a backup plan. They haven't got friends that know what to do with that stuff. And the reality is I can't stop that side of things. That's coming. And it's been hand in hand with the culture since the start.
Sure.
So it's important to get yourself educated on that, and also to not use it as a crux, but as a beer at the end of the day.
100%, 100%.
It must be a reward for good work, not a crux.
I get you. And just in closing, Kev, I wanted to speak on just like, obviously, like, because you've worked with a lot of guys who I guess come from the same background as me. You know, we're trying to chase this dream. And I want to kind of get an idea. I mean, if you have any ideas, this is a loaded question because it takes years to get the answers. But just to, from what you've experienced, is like, one, it's like, what would you say like most of us as artists need to work on? You know, maybe we come in and the same thing we're doing, I don't know what it is. Maybe you kind of observing like, oh, a lot of you guys are doing this, and then the inverse also to say like, what are we doing correctly as well? You know, like keep going. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is how much money gets wasted on social media. So that being said, what I note is the amount of times that I've seen an alumni who I've watched scrolling Instagram have clearly used all their data and then have missed a job because they couldn't reply to an email that afternoon. So I'm not saying social media, stay off it, but do realize how much it costs you and make sure that you're not spending all your money on that. You need to make sure that you're always available via email, especially with music jobs, because they get thrown out to a couple people at a time. It's first person back. 100%. So that is the best piece of advice I can give you is just like, unless you're on social media for portraying your brand,
like you're still working kind of thing,
and or using it to spot events. If you're just doom scrolling, you're wasting money that could be spent on finding jobs by email and stuff. Let me think. Another thing to do is do it yourself. So I think a lot of people are looking for gigs. Like me and John, I think we'd done our own thing 5 or 6 times over. Like taking a night and running it every Friday for, I mean, waiting room went on for 7 years. But that's how we got our following. That's how we got people, was by doing every Friday night at Marvel. We would play from 9 till 4/10 a.m. and it just word of mouth built and built and built and built. And off the back of that, then we had enough of a kind of following there was a weight behind us, so people started taking notice and saying, do you want to come here? So, and the reason I say marvel is because it was literally not the club.
Sure, at the time,
yeah, it was the one that needed someone like us to do something on a Friday night. Yeah, so it was within the vicinity of the other clubs. If I think about it now, of course, it's in Long Street, so it did have walk-in access. But so it wouldn't be a bad idea for, let's say, you guys to get together, 3 or 4 of you, go to a local club here,
100%.
and then you go and find the bar next to it. And you go to those guys and you say, can we do Friday nights here?
I agree.
And then you work out a deal. Like we had a bottle of Jägermeister and a case of Windhoek. And then it went to 10% of the bar. It was split between the DJs. And it was always a case like, okay, if we get more people, we get more money. So it was an incentive for us. And then once it got big enough, then eventually we inquired about pushing up the rates, and when we got handbraked on that. No, it's not, so then we just left and went across the road to Wellington.
You get another spot and just kill.
Yeah, and they were more, they were waiting for us because they were watching our party across the road
They were waiting.
For a good 3 years. And then so the second we walked across and said, can we do Friday nights? I said, oh, thank you, come.
We've been waiting for you guys.
So it definitely, we managed to run a good balance between throwing our own night, like a weekly night that was regular. And I emphasize the regular part of it, is making sure that we were in one place every Friday.
Oh, shit.
And that meant that people could come to that place. And they knew, like, they didn't have to see the event. They just knew, okay, what are we doing Friday night? Waiting room. It's a good safe bet, yeah.
100%. That's so cool, actually.
And so by doing that, then I think in the end we had Friday night at Waiting Room, Saturday night at Fiction, and then the rest of the week we just toured. And then when we were touring more, we dropped Fiction, and gave the night over to some a friend of ours and like some of the DJs that he had. And then Friday nights we kept. But Friday night was the one place you could find Mix and Blend, was Waiting Room. And then for the rest we were either in Joburg or PE or wherever, somewhere around the country. But we used the initial parties were parties that we set up to get out there. That was the break.
Sick,
So if you want to know how we broke out into the market, it was private, our own parties.
Your own party. That's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty sick. And just in closing, Kev, one more question. I mean, like we're burning now.
Yeah.
We wanna lose some weight. We're in the sauna. I wanna know, like, Kev, right now, like, you in the space in your career, you got a family and everything. What's the dream now?
I kind of feel like I'm living my dream a bit in terms of where I want to be, the people I'm around, the people I'm helping, where I go to work every day, where I wake up in the morning. I feel like I'm pretty good there. There's a nagging suspicion in the back of my head. It's more like a big filter or a great hurdle that seems to be putting a book in my path. So I'm going to start investigating that. I do like writing. I just don't know.
That would be cool.
I haven't got that mission to write a whole book, but
that'd be so cool.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. One thing I am doing because I do still have ad clients, but I kept the cool ones. So I have a friend, Andrew, and what we're doing future tech kind of launch capabilities. So for a brand launch. So one of the things we've done is surround sound kind of bus stops with bird wings.
That's crazy.
Then I've just done a thing for Johnny Walker, which is a food pairing night.
Yeah, I saw that one. That one was crazy.
And I found out that they've bought me a synth that you plug into plants.
What?
Yeah. So what I will then
awesome.
do is work out a way for all this synth to be incorporated into live acts and launches, and then we sell those launches to brands.
That is crazy, Kevin.
That's kind of the next step.
That's crazy. Kevin Ribbans, part 3. But yeah, Kevin, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate that. I think there's so much we could have spoken about. There's so much I still want to speak about it, Kev. But for now, I think there's enough in there for, you know, guys listening out there just to take notes and learn and take it further in their career.
And he's got a project to hand in.
I do. Yeah, so guys, thank you so much. Lemons to Lemonade episode. This was awesome. Kevin Ribbans. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I've got my Facebook. You can find Mix and Blend and Laser Shark on all the platforms. It's Laser Shark with a Z and 2 Ks at the end because we're weird like that.
I hacked him when I dropped the song recently on his account. So yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Kev.
Awesome.
Peace and love, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.